into the cloud. Okay, so today we're going to do a little update on Cassandra. Jeff's going to give us an update on that. I hear he has a wonderful presentation with graphics and movies and like special effects. It's going to be pretty amazing. And then Frank or Cyril, either one, give us an update on CassKop and where that's at right now. It's been a while since we've had an update, so this will be a good catch up on a few things. And then if anybody else shows up in there, we'll take some Q&A, but mainly we're talking to the camera right now and to the larger community. I think there'll be this will get picked up. So Jeff, take it away, entertain us.
Good thing. So there will be fireworks, lots of fancy stuff. It will just be behind me in the blurred out background, so you won't be able to see it. So I'm sorry about that. But so yeah, we can definitely talk a little bit about what Cassandra is doing at the moment, what we're kind of targeting like right now, and then over the course of the next couple of months leading into KubeCon is kind of the next big milestone on the roadmap. So right now, we are working on getting the 1.3 release out. So we're hoping to get that out sometime like the second week of July, after the 4th of July holiday here in the US and all that goodness. That's got it's a relatively smaller release, I'd say. We're trying to hit like a monthly cadence with stuff, so it will be increasing like that, although 2.0 will be very different. We'll talk about that in a second. But so there's a couple things on the slate for 1.3. A bunch of pod scheduling enhancements. We've added taints and toleration support, affinity support throughout the stack, support for private image repos. We've been adding that in terms of accessing and kind of air-gapped environments. And then we will also include the support for RC2 in that, since that is now out and available. So that should pop in there. We are also trying to get incremental repair support in Reaper in that time frame too. I'm not 100% sure if that's going to hit at the moment on the timeline or not. If it doesn't, that'll come around in the next release. Probably not so far after 1.3, to be honest. Our general plan also with as 4.0 approaches GA is that we'll just spin out another release once GA hits as well. So hopefully we will keep those coming along. We want to make sure that the latest and greatest is accessible with Cassandra, and we're not far behind that. So that's the really short-term picture. I guess we're also doing some work in Cass Operator, more refactoring and API upgrade work, less feature work, but there's a lot of stuff going on there in terms of the API upgrades. Questions on 1.3 stuff, and then we can talk about the big things. All right.
Well,
so
the other versions. Sorry, any news on the backup and restore features?
That's in the next spot. So okay. Yes, we can just go into that now.
No,
so yeah. So then looking towards the rest of the summer and getting into KubeCon, we have basically two major features and then one major refactoring to kind of support some of that. The first major feature there is the remote restore work that we're doing. So there is a design doc out there in terms of what we're hoping to achieve, which if I can dig it up real quick, I will pop it in the Slack, or not Slack, but in the chat so everybody has it. But so hoping to get that, so remote restore, and then also multi-cluster deployment support, multi-Kubernetes cluster deployment support in the time frame of being ready for KubeCon. So in order to support primarily the multi-cluster stuff, but just generally a lot of things that we want to do, we're also, oh, John already put the message in there. Thank you, John, appreciate it. We're also refactoring Cassandra itself to provide a higher level Cassandra operator. And So John could probably talk a little bit more about the detail of that if anybody's curious. But so we'll be replacing what is currently, primarily Helm driven, except for we do have operators in place to handle Medusa and Reaper. And then obviously Cass operator for Cassandra itself. And so we're going to be layering on top of that another operator to control all of that as well. So we are hoping to get all of that done through the course of the summer here and ready for KubeCon in the fall.
So I'm just curious, do you have any goals in terms of, like, let's say a terabyte node, how long it would take to back up and restore that?
So no, well, so nothing that's changing. So under the covers, the backup and restore process is still taking place with Medusa. So I don't know. I mean, John, I don't know if you know anything about the performance impacts there or not, but I don't think anything's really changing per se.
There is an open ticket for exposing some of the concurrency or throttling that Medusa has.
Can do. Yeah.
So there's a very similar question. So I could certainly see that, it's a pretty low-hanging fruit type of change. That now, as far as how much of the tuning of those parameters, how much of an impact that will make, I wouldn't be able to answer that. That would be a great question to post on the forum, because the primary maintainer of Medusa, Alex Dejanowski, he's it's pretty late for him right now, and so either on Discord or on the forums. Catch him there.
Obviously, I'm a little biased in this area since we have a solution, and I know it's not open source, so I won't talk about it much. But I mean, we demonstrated with Chris Bradford moving a terabyte node across availability zones in 15 minutes. So we've got some pretty cool stuff if you run into anybody who's looking for something like that.
These are the kind of things that, for ecosystem, it's an open source project and anyone can contribute, and these are all CRDs. Like how do you interface? Because I just did this talk about composable infrastructure. It's like Cassandra is a really awesome Lego set. It's still Legos, and that means you can exchange pieces and parts. So Eric, I would just, I would encourage you to, figure out like how maybe you could contribute into that and just create more variety for anyone who's running Cassandra. That's
yeah, I mean, it's really simple. Honestly, we are just a Kubernetes storage class. So all you'd have to do is there's kind of two pieces to what we do. We completely eliminate any managed storage service that you're using, like EBS or EFS or whatever it is. You don't use that anymore. You just use direct attached NVMe. So along with that, you get almost 2 orders of magnitude better performance from an IOPS and latency perspective. But one of the really cool things about it is that it can give you an instant restore, and it can do it across an availability zone really easy.
Yeah, and I mean, this is part of just as an update. I talked a lot with a team from Microsoft this week, the people who run storage at Microsoft, also very interested in finding ways to hook into the way Cassandra works and augment it for these types of things. Cloud providers, anyone who's got a storage game should be paying attention to Cassandra, because Cassandra is a storage augmenter, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, it's probably interesting, just to side note that conversation with Microsoft in particular. So I think we generated a bunch of noise recently with Microsoft in particular, because we ran a number of benchmark tests within the cloud providers to look at the way things performed, comparing it to what not bare metal, but a bare VM deployment of Cassandra looked like versus within Kubernetes on the providers. And so a lot of conversation, particularly about the way Azure manages those disks and whatnot, came up. I'm gonna put another link in the chat there to the blog. If y'all haven't seen it, it's really pretty interesting. I think it goes a long way towards really helping tell the story that, you know, you're not losing anything really by putting this in Kubernetes, as opposed to the bare VMs, the direct VM approach. And in some spots, you're actually gaining performance with pretty similar resources under the covers. So it's pretty cool content.
I have a question regarding the backup, because this is something we talked about a lot. That was also supposed to be worked on between March and June, and March and April, if I remember. The question is it still the same? Does it still work the same way? Meaning it wasn't able to restore data on a live cluster. It could only do it on a new cluster, created cluster, and instantiate the backup there. Is it something you worked on now and it worked live? I also, maybe it wasn't working live, but you needed to shut down the cluster and restart the cluster completely or something like that. I don't remember, but I think what I said before was the case. So maybe that's something you can answer.
I can take, so the live restore that you described before, Cyril, that Alex, he had started doing some design work around that. That is separate than the remote restore, and the live so there's the in-place restore where we shut down the cluster by default. You don't have to, but we well, let me clarify that a bit. In the Helm chart, we shut it down by default, but you can, like I said, yeah, you can, certainly change that if you want. And then, honestly, I'd have to go back and look at his notes for live restore to see. I want to say that there are changes that we're looking to make as part of the remote restore work that we want to get in place before the remote restore. But but don't hold me to that. I need to go back and look to see where, review that doc. So yeah, that's where I think.
And you said it's in the Helm chart that you specify if you want to reboot or not. Does it mean that it does and not to refresh automatically if you don't, or is it a user action that is needed then?
No, there's no user action. And I mentioned in the Helm chart, it's because in the CRD, the default value is not, and because of the property is a Boolean, and it would have been messy to just change it in the CRD. And probably the best thing would have been to change it to a pointer. So anyway, it was simpler to just change the default setting in the Helm chart. So if you don't, if you set the flag to say don't shut down, then what happens is it triggers a stateful set update. So in effect, a rolling restart.
Oh, so okay, so you still have the rolling restart. Okay,
right.
Okay, because we were talking about that. You have a 24 nodes cluster. You restore a table of 100 megabytes. You have to rolling restart the whole thing.
Right, and so there's been, and one of the other things that has kind of, I'd say, slowed things down a bit we've definitely hit a couple bugs along the way. There was a concurrency bug, thanks to yours truly, in the backup code that was Michael Berman had put in a fix. It was a nasty concurrency bug with trying to update the status. And then there was another bug that just fixed recently where we were on the restore when we do the default behavior of shutting down the cluster, then we were triggering a subsequent after the pods come up or restart, triggering a rolling restart, which is pretty ugly. And so that's been fixed. And so now all of those. So now, so the nice thing with the default behavior of the shutdown is that the restore operation itself, that happens in parallel, because yeah, whereas if you do it in place, it's going to be a lot longer, actually going to be a lot slower for a larger cluster anyway.
Okay. So
So
in short,
sorry, I
the
was gonna,
yeah, sorry,
my
go
bad.
ahead.
Go ahead.
I mean,
No,
I
go
just
ahead.
wanted to talk about the tickets that we have open there for CassKop compatibility. The backup was there, and if someone can update the status on that ticket, what direction you're taking, yeah, would be great.
Which ticket is it?
Can't find it. You can look it up by the label. We have a label, CassKop something, on the operator.
Oh, it's in Cas operator.
Yes. I can send it to you after the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, maybe I can fill the void here. Yeah, we're quite happy that you mentioned that you're planning on working on the multi-cluster, Kubernetes cluster, because that's one of the things we discussed earlier that our customer actually need. I mean, our customer being Orange inside. And that's a link for us to, we wanted to, maybe, can we talk about CassKop or no? Or you want to do you have other things to say on Cass Operator or Cassandra? No? Okay.
Any more, Jeff? Are you good? All right.
No, so I think no, I did omit one thing earlier in the 1.3 batch. This is just the backup restore stuff. Reminded me that we're in Cassandra, Medusa already supported, but in Cassandra we'll start supporting Azure Blob Storage as well. I don't know that's a lot of consequence to y'all or not, but another backup restore focused feature that we're adding in there. So,
no, we're not
it.
concerned about Azure, but that's okay. So what we said earlier, I mean, we still support Cassandra as our target and tool. Okay. What we did though is, because our teams still use CassKop, okay, because we still have features that are not covered by Cassandra. What we did is we did upgrade CassKop to version 2, as we mentioned on the Slack. And the main thing we added is support for Cassandra 4. And we're actually using your CassConfig builder inside, because we wanted it to be a step for our team between the existing way of configuring Cassandra and move one way closer to Cassandra by including the configuration changes into the CRD. So which is the main reason why, and we actually really liked the way you did it. So we said let's implement it on our side. Just the time it takes for our inside team to move from one operator to the other. That's the main reason behind CassKop 2. Maybe Cyril, you want to add more details? I don't know. That was just he did all the work, so
not much, I would say. Not much to add. Yeah, like Frank said, we use the config builder. We have to, I mean, we try to infer all the configuration that needs to be passed, like the server version to the config builder. The only issue that we have right now is that the version 4 of Cassandra is an RC version. So we have to specify the version right now, saying it's an RC1, RC2 for the config, because only 4.00 is supported. And tell me, let me know, Jim, if I'm wrong. But for now, yeah, we can use the RC version of Cassandra 4, but we need to specify the server version for the config builder to pick the right version.
That sounds right.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing. And the reason also why we moved we started to use the config builder is to support Cassandra 3 and Cassandra 4 easily without having to change the bootstrap image that we use. If we have the config directly in the CRD, it makes things just easier. So yeah, thanks for this tool, and we used it.
All right, is there any other updates that we need to talk about? Just for everyone that isn't here, and we'll see, is we had a really, I'm pretty excited about this, is Alex did a blog post on doing a connecting an external cluster to a Cassandra cluster, which is like, this is where I'm starting to see like, yes, we're going to get into some really interesting use cases here, because it's going to help with a lot of migration or augmentation, like adding a data center to your existing Cassandra cluster, that sort of thing. The other thing that I'm tracking pretty heavily is, of course, on the Cassandra side, on the Cassandra project, just watching RC2 went voted in yesterday. So RC2 is cooking and hopefully will stay. It's like, don't find any more bugs. And so if it looks good, I mean, potentially next week or the week after, we could have a GA vote. I haven't seen any blocker bugs come through yet. It was actually pretty cool. The RC process worked. A good example is like Home Depot put RC1 into a pre-prod test environment and found a pretty nasty bug. It was obscure. It was on a query, but they found a bug and it was perfect. It's exactly what we want with an RC. And it was fixed. There was a few other pretty nasty bugs in there too, but it did its job. So hopefully RC2 will last and we won't see an RC3, but if we do, we do. And what I'm excited about is what that means for Cassandra and the Cassandra project in general. Is Cassandra and all the efforts we're putting around running Cassandra and Kubernetes are really coming together now, just in time for Cassandra 4. And hopefully that will help with a lot of migrations as we go along. So just an update from the project. All right. Is there anything else we need to talk about today, folks?
No, thanks for the update.
Yeah. All right, great. Thanks, everyone. Well, I'll see you next time around. I'll keep everyone updated if we'll have another meeting on 2 weeks or if there's anything to update. If Cassandra 4 does ship, we probably do want to have a discussion. So
Okay.
don't hold your breath. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Yes, bye.